Hi, my name is Andrea Reynoso and this is my sister.
Hi, my name is Paola Reynoso.
Today I'm going to be teaching you about psychology, the definition of it, and the four lobes and their functions.
Okay.
So, starting with, I have a question for you. Have you ever wondered why people act the way they do or why they think and feel certain things? Because that is what psychology is about.
Yeah, I have thought about it. My reasoning has always been like sometimes the way people think or sometimes the way they act could be associated with their upbringing, or just maybe even mental reasons.
Yes, that is what psychology is about. Everyone has different ways of thinking. We all have four lobes in our brain, but every lobe has a different function and it works differently for every person. So now we're going to go into what is psychology. Psychology is defined as the scientific study of behavior and mental processes. Behavior is walking, talking, texting, So what is an example of behavior to you?
An example of a behavior could be like an action.
An action?
Like a behavior could be happy, could be mad, could be sad.
Okay.
Just the way someone acts based off an action. That's the way that I see it.
Okay, so do you think people are affected, they do different things because of that, because of their behaviors? Do you think that affects their actions? A behavior affects an action?
Yeah, because I think if you're a person who has usually like negative behaviors, you could have negative actions. If you have positive behaviors, if you're used to having a positive behavior, you could have positive decisions or behaviors.
Yes. What about mental process? Have you ever heard that before?
No,
A mental
I'm not
process?
familiar with that phrase.
Okay, just hearing the word, what do you think it could mean?
Mental processes?
Yes, sorry, mental processes.
Mental processes. The way somebody... I guess the way I interpret it is the way that somebody decides what emotion to use and what goes through their brain to choose that emotion.
Yeah, I mean, the word kind of says it itself, right? A process, your mental processing. And I do think everybody has a different mental process. What do you think?
I do think that.
Not everyone is going to have the same process as you. For example, my example is whenever I'm going to take an exam tomorrow, let's say I'm really nervous for it because it's tomorrow and I'm feeling anxious, that is a mental process. Yes. Me thinking about how I'm anxious for it, it's coming up, so I'm feeling nervous today, super anxious. Now I start studying for it. Okay. So that's the behavior.
Okay.
You think about it first, you think what you're going to do, then the behavior is taking an action. Do you kind of understand that?
Yeah, I do.
Okay. Why do you think people act differently in the same situation? So let's say you and me, we both have an exam tomorrow. I'm anxious about it, you're not anxious about it. Why do you think we have different...
I think it has a lot to do with personalities and the way one goes about their emotions. Like that example that you bring up with an exam, potentially taking an exam is a good example, because if you're a person who deals with anxiety or you deal with nervousness feelings, you're going to be nervous for your exam, which I think could cause you to have a bad performance. But on the other hand, say me, I usually have a positive attitude and I'm not an anxious person, I could probably perform better because of my attitude and because of the way my personality works.
So your behavior is going to be different, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so from what you're saying right now, it does affect, right? Mental processing affects everybody differently.
I do think that.
Give us an example. Whenever you have an exam, what's your mental process? Not your behavior, what's your mental process?
What goes through my mind? Well, first thing, I do get like nervous to start with, but my next immediate step or what I think of is, okay, I need to study. And I just program my mind to like prepare. And I think I'm a pretty confident person. So I always feel, okay, if I study, I'm going to pass it, which hasn't always been the case, but that's the way I kind of think.
So you calm yourself down and you get to work. You don't procrastinate.
Not really. I don't consider myself to procrastinate that much.
Okay, that makes sense. That means you have different perceptions and different views in your brain, and your brain works differently from others.
Yeah.
There's other people that do get anxious and stressed, and that causes them to not be able to study. Okay, that's your case, right?
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, now we're going to move on to the brain. The brain controls thought, movement, emotions, and decisions. Have you ever familiarized yourself with the lobes of your brain? Have you ever learned about it?
No, never.
Have you ever heard about any lobe of the brain?
No.
No, you've never heard of it?
Mm-mm.
Okay. Well, there are 4 lobes. One of them is the frontal, the other one is the occipital, temporal, and parietal lobe. We're going to start with the frontal lobe. You've never heard about this one, right?
Actually, out of all of them, the one that sounds the most familiar is the frontal lobe.
What do you hear
but
about
I don't know. When I think of the frontal lobe, I think of like this part of your head or your brain, but I don't know like what the function is other than you thinking.
Because have you heard the term like, oh, his or her frontal lobe isn't developed, it is developed? Have you heard that?
Yeah, I've heard that phrase.
Okay, what do you think when you hear that? What do you think it has to do with?
I think it has to do with maybe a person's brain isn't fully developed. Like if somebody says their frontal lobe hasn't developed, like their brain, it doesn't process things.
And you think that affects them?
I do think that. Like maybe like an injury or something like that.
Okay, well, I'm going to tell you what the frontal lobe actually takes care of. It takes care of decision-making, personality, and controlling movement. So your personality comes from your frontal lobe, no other lobe.
Okay.
You're the way you are because of that. I am the way I am because of that. So what's a decision you made today? Maybe an important decision, just a small decision.
Okay. A decision I made today at work could probably be whether if I was ready. I work in construction, so I have to make decisions seeing if my job is complete to call in for inspections. So I was trying to make a decision if I should call in for an inspection tomorrow or not to call it, depending on how far along I was done with the construction project.
Okay, so that was your mental processing, right?
Yeah.
And so going back, what was your mental processing in that situation?
My mental processing? I was kind of anxious just thinking about the timeline. So I was kind of feeling also stressed because with my job, a lot of people are all about time. So I have people every day kind of like pressuring me. They pressure me a lot with, hey, we're supposed to be done by so-and-so date. So if I get delayed, I'm also delaying everybody else around me. Okay, so that was your mental processing. And your behavior to that, what was it? If you recall a behavior, is what you do because of your mental processing. So your action in this. My behavior was, I took a look around first to see if I was ready or not to call in for an inspection. And I decided to just do it, to just call it in and just take action and do it. Yeah. So just so you remember that, because I am going to ask you about it in the end. That is your frontal lobe acting. That is the decision making of your frontal lobe. Okay? Okay. And remember, it also has to do with personality and controlling your movement. So everything you do day to day, it has to do with your frontal lobe mostly. Now, moving on to the second lobe of the brain. It is located near the top of the brain here. So it is a parietal lobe. It controls touch, temperature, and pain. Those are it doesn't control. Those are its functions. Okay? Touch, temperature, and pain. When you touch something hot or cold, your brain helps you understand the sensation. So it's kind of like a sensor. Okay. Your body sends a sensor to your parietal lobe, which is again at the top. You feel it, then your body processes it. I have a question for you. What would happen if you touch something hot? I would probably, if I touch something really hot, I would probably be kind of yell a little bit or So that's just your reflex coming in fast since your senses touch that. That's hot. You just, back away, right? So that's, Now moving on to the third one, it's temporal lobe. It is in the sides of your brain. So if it's in the sides of your brain, what do you think it controls? I've told you about the frontal and parietal. Okay, so going back to the temporal lobe, what do you think it is? If it's near your ears, so think about it. We already talked about the frontal, the parietal. What would you associate it with? I would probably associate that with hearing. What your brain could process with what you hear. Okay. Yeah, so it actually has to do with hearing and memory. Okay. And so this, controls that part of your day-to-day. What are some examples to you? If you hear hearing and memory, what are examples of hearing to you? What do you hear on your day-to-day, for example? What I hear in my day-to-day? Like when you go out around your day, what do you hear things? I probably hear like at work, I probably hear a lot of cars.
Okay.
Like sometimes you can hear beeping or, yeah, hearing cars or hearing loud machines, machinery, or a lot of like braking, like wall braking or stuff like that.
Yes. So that part of your brain processes that. So remember, that's temporal lobe. Like listening to music, remembering something from your past, because it does have to do with memory too.
Okay.
So do you consider yourself more short-term memory or long-term memory based?
I feel like short term because I tend to forget a lot about stuff, and even people tell me that they'll be like, "Oh, do you remember so and so situation or so and so person?" And I'm like, "Wait, it takes me a while to process it unless somebody is like reminding me, oh no, this is this, and giving me a whole bunch of examples." So I do think I have more short-term memory.
Okay. Do you think there's anything you can do to make it long-term? Like, why do you think some people have long-term memories, and why do you think you have short-term memories? You think it has to do with anything that you learned through time, or that's just the way your brain is?
I would think that's just the way your brain is, and maybe almost like a genetic thing. You know how like people will develop like that it's a condition that older people can get, and I can't remember what, maybe dementia, something like that, when people start forgetting stuff. So I think it's something that's like just happens or is just developed, or it could even just be a genetic, because that could also be passed down.
Which, now that you mentioned that about genetics, psychology, in a sense, it does have to do the way you are, and it has kind of to do with, genetics. It all has to, go with that. And yeah, so it does have to do with it. So it's good that you mentioned that. Now, the fourth and final one is the occipital lobe, which is at the very back of the brain over here. So just hearing the word occipital and back of the brain, what do you think that controls? Its functions?
The back of the brain? Ooh. I can't even think of that one, honestly. I wouldn't even, I've never even considered like the back part of your...
So I always associate occipital with optic, which means vision.
Oh, okay.
And that is exactly what the occipital lobe takes care of, which is vision, like seeing the colors, shapes, people. So your day-to-day. So what is something that you would consider your occipital lobe doing?
Well, what I look at, you said it's with your vision, right? Well, maybe just looking at my surroundings, like when you wake up, if you go into the restroom and you're getting ready for the day, you look at yourself, get your hair ready.
So that's something that you use every day, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think that's something you use all day unless you're sleeping.
So yeah, your all your lobes actually have to do with your day-to-day. That's the way your brain, runs most of your body, obviously. Okay. It's all about sensation, all about just taking in information, all that kind of stuff. Okay. So just running back a little, so, you have a little refresh in your mind, since we just learned all the 4 lobes. The first one was frontal lobe. Do you remember kind of?
Frontal lobe was like your actions. It has to do with like
decision making.
The decisions that you make, and then the behaviors associated with it.
Mental processing and behaviors.
Yes,
and all that falls back into the frontal lobe. Not the occipital, not anything else, because frontal lobe focuses specifically on the decision making and your personality. So what are some personality qualities that you think you have?
I would say I can be people tend to tell me that I have a very strong personality, because I consider myself to be a direct person. So that would be a personality trait, but I'm also very talkative. I'm very open. I don't really, shy down on anything. Like, I can go into a room and I'll talk to anybody. I'll introduce myself. I like to network a lot and get to meet people and know their backgrounds and just get to know people. I just think I have a strong, friendly personality.
Okay, and now knowing what your frontal lobe is about, decision-making, personality, and controlling movement, you've heard the term, like, again, frontal lobe develop, not develop. What do you consider yourself?
I would consider that my frontal lobe is extremely developed.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
You say that because of the way you make decisions?
The way I make decisions, yes, because I make decisions pretty quickly. I don't really like beat around the bush. I kind of just, I'm always like yes or no, or I'm never really like in the maybe.
Okay, you could be correct because actually you develop your frontal lobe after your 20s and your age is...
I'm 22 years old.
22? Okay, it's still a little early, but...
Okay.
I'm just kidding. But, okay, now parietal lobe, do you kind of recall or do you want me to just refresh you? Because at the end, I am going to give you, a couple questions.
I
remember it's at the top of the top.
I think it had to do with the touching or like temperatures, I think you said.
Yes. Touch, temperature, and pain.
Okay.
So again, it's like a sensor, right?
Okay.
When you touch something hot, you back away, Now, temporal lobe, sides of the brain, do you recall?
Yeah, temporal, your ears?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, so hearing, okay? Now, occipital, do you remember occipital, optic? So always relate that.
Yeah, with your vision?
Your vision, yes. So, for example, when someone says, oh, I have 20/20 vision, 15/20, that, that has to do with your occipital lobe.
Occipital.
Yes. So, to review, just to, remind you, psychology is a scientific study of behavior and mental processing.
Okay.
Again, the behavior is what you do and the process is what you think and feel. So, like we said, the exam, And now, I'm going to ask you the questions about the exam again, just to test you right now.
Okay.
If I'm taking an exam and I am anxious and stressed, what is that? Is it a behavior or a mental processing?
A mental processing.
Okay, yes, because you are processing what you feel, right? And because you process that, the behavior comes, which would be, if I'm stressed and anxious, what am I doing after to fix that? For my exam.
You're having a behavior?
Which I am studying. And that was my behavior, yes. That is what psychology is.
Okay.
Just so you know, mental processing, again, and behavior. Now I'm going to quiz you on something. Which lobe helps you make decisions?
Your frontal lobe.
Your frontal lobe, yes, helps you. And what else does it help you with? Or what is it associated of?
Your front of your brain, no?
No, yes.
Your behavior?
Yes, and personality.
Yeah,
it's fine. We're just, I just want you to remember.
Still learning.
And then now, which lobe helps you see? Helps you with your vision?
Starts with an O. Occipital?
Occipital, yes. Optic, occipital, yes. Which lobe helps you hear?
Temporal, or how do you say it?
Temporal.
Oh, temporal. I know what the letter starts with.
Yes. And now that you know all this information, you processed it, and you're thinking about it, what was the most interesting thing you learned in this lesson?
I would say about your frontal lobe.
Okay.
Even though, I think all of them are interesting because I never had looked into it and understood each part of it. But I think your frontal lobe is very interesting because it almost feels like your brain emotions sends a signal for you to have a behavior. Okay. I don't know. It's interesting.
So you're understanding the mental processing and behavior, right?
Yeah.
Okay, because that is what psychology is about, and it has to do with everything about how a person is. So yes, that is what your frontal lobe was. You explained it right. So that was the most interesting to you.
Yeah, that was the most interesting.
Okay, so now that I taught you this, you think you could still teach this to someone, or do you think you would need more practice with it? Or do you kind of get the hang of it?
No, I definitely feel like I could do a better job of learning the names because the names aren't that easy to remember. But I do think it's a very easy and interesting topic to teach to someone, and I almost do feel like everybody should know about this, so we can all understand. We all don't have the same behaviors. We all don't have the same thought processes. We all react to what we see and to what we hear differently. So I think it's very interesting, and
thank you.
More people should learn about it.
Yes, I agree. And so now you have a better understanding of psychology, right?
Yes.
Because again, the lobes have to do with psychology. So that was that's what the lesson was about. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
And this is what I wanted to teach, the psychology and the lobes of the brain. Those were my topics. And this is my paper once again. That's what I was reading up. And thank you.
Thank you.